Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Frugal Noodle, the podcast dedicated to helping you understand finance, investing, retirement, early or otherwise. And in today's episode, how a simple life leads to fire. There's a subject I've been driving at early on in the first season of the show, and it's simple living. How choosing to live simply is not only great for your outlook in life, your mind, your health, but also for your wallet. For some, it's enough to just be better about money despite still wanting the world. But I think it's rare that you become truly a guru with your money and don't start to recognize how much happier you are having less than others. Let's put together the image of the common 20, 30, 40, or 50-something today and break down exactly why what is common isn't necessarily right. There's obviously a difference in the mindset from a 20-something to a 50-something, especially in today's world where the 20-something grew up with a technological boom unlike anything mankind has ever seen. It's far flung from the days of yore, like, say, circa 1700, when a 20-something likely shared the same mindset of anyone senior by 30 years. They lacked wisdom, sure, but they were interested in just about the same things as each other. But today is much different. And to what extent, we don't need to worry about so much, but we need to focus on the common image of those in the working age group. What we likely see of those among us, or maybe fail to see even in ourselves, is a lack of fulfillment with things, despite us trying to find it through things. You know how I feel about boats and RVs, and while I rant about it plenty, especially in season 1, I think it's important to say that everyone should do whatever makes them happiest. The problem is that it's easy to say that something makes you happy, but it's hard to acknowledge how long that happiness lasts and turn that data into decision-making power in the future. There isn't a soul out there that hasn't made a dumb purchase, and not just through monetary means, but there's a handful of people who reflect on those dumb purchases and ask themselves, why would I continue this trend? That leaves a majority of us that just keeps making dumb purchases and not changing things. And while Amazon and big box stores make it easy for us to say, well, it's just $10 for this t-shirt with Paul Rudd's face on it. It was also $10 for that selfie stick, the fidget spinner, or that rechargeable self-heating coffee thermos that only worked for 3 months and was ugly as all get out. That t-shirt with Paul Rudd's face on it, though, I might have to get that for my wife. The point is, and if it's not obvious, these purchases do add up. If I could show you exactly how much your investments would be worth today if you'd have cut out silly purchases 5, 10, 30 years ago, you'd probably give yourself the silent treatment for at least a week. But the common person just does this endlessly. They just keep the same financial habits throughout life, only adjusting them slightly to match their expected maturity. When you're 20, you buy anything you can afford because you're an adult now, and that's your latest superpower. When you're 30, you buy the car that says something about you because your career is taking a professional turn. At 40, that's when we enter the boat phase, or possibly a third car for the MLC, otherwise known as midlife crisis, a car that shows how youthful we still are. At 50, our metamorphosis into the RV hauling, extravagant gift-giving, summer home having butterfly we were meant to be is complete. Of course, I'm generalizing and failing to give credit to the many people that don't do these kinds of things. My point being that just because we grow older and wiser doesn't mean our purchases do too. Again, whatever makes a person happy as long as it's not harming others. Shaping our happiness in simple ways is the key to finding how frugal living can make our lives feel fuller. And even more so than the life before that was fueled by the notion that objects equal happiness. I'll emphasize that frugal living is not about being cheap, making no discretionary purchases at all, and wincing at every purchase that needs to be made. Admittedly, our own home has spent decent money on objects within the past year that might seem unfrugal of us. But a close look at those purchases would tell a story that's different because of the thought behind them. Seeking comfort from an office chair that was designed with posture in mind and will outlast its weaker alternatives that may be cheaper up front can translate into a far more frugal purchase in the end because of the preservation of your health, not to mention the rarely recognized joy that being comfortable brings us. The same could be said about purchasing warmer clothes that translate into a lower temperature on the thermostat, or an air purifier that translates into not needing to purchase medicine for indoor allergies. In our home, we make sure that our purchases are informed by necessities or improved livelihood, rather than the potential for a short-lived entertainment. But beyond what our home purchases, there's what we do instead of making purchases in general. We are greatly motivated by nature, the reward of physical labor, exploring new skills as hobbies, reading, and just generally enjoying what we already have. I would say we, as in my wife and I and our family, have very low insight on what is new and trending in terms of physical tchotchkes of entertainment. We just don't put ourselves in front of that lane of advertisement. I'm not even sure what the latest phone is for Samsung or Apple. Not that that makes me any better than anyone. I'm just illustrating how one could make an effort to step off the path of consumption, detox from buying the latest and greatest, and find that they're still happy, if not more happy, than when they were always informed of the greatest and the latest. Additionally, we set goals as a family. It's a little of tooting a horn of our own to say that we pursue more than the average person in terms of what we want to accomplish, but I subjectively think it's just a fact about us. We're a married couple with a child. I work full-time. My wife's a full-time mother. She runs a self-owned art business when she's not mothering. We're homesteading. We tack on new goals all the time for skills to learn. We're heavily involved in our daughter's development into the member of society she will be. We don't distract ourselves with our phones when she's awake and are present with her in every moment that we can be. We plan to homeschool and value the time we spend together as a family being important above all. I'm pointing this all out because what we often see in the average person is a lot of the opposite, and not necessarily without reason. I feel for the people that are working hard and drained by the end of the day, unable to break out of the cycle of doom scrolling while Netflix plays in the background, only to go to sleep far too late and do it all again another day. I feel for that person who is so packed to the brim with ambition and potential to do great things, but they're stuck. I've been there, and I find myself falling into a negative pattern like that from time to time to this day. But it's acknowledging that a pattern exists in the first place that allows us to make a change. So this is all to say that if it seems impossible to find happiness in simpler living, it may be necessary to reflect on the complex layers that feed the anxiety of our modern life and how it feeds into our making purchases to bring temporary uphills for us to break away into simpler living. Simple life finds fulfillment for us by adding those challenges that preoccupy that lizard part of our brain that loves the dopamine response of doom scrolling and ineffective purchases. Thus, we create a day, week, month, year of goals that we can achieve through our own efforts and by using our own hands, which then relies less on those old habits that were dragging us down. Okay, so I'm preaching about this lifestyle that works for us, and it's kind of outlandish to the world as a whole knows right now. But why we do it isn't just about the aforementioned reasons of finding happiness in simple things. It's about fire as well. It's about financial independence, finding it sooner because of what we've given up in our previously complex lives. And even more so for us, it's about being self-sufficient and skilled individuals on a society that has proven time and again in recent years that it's not going to be there for you to fulfill all of your needs all of the time. We'll be happier with a simpler outlook on life. We'll be able to retire sooner because of our approach to finance. But we'll also be able to rely on ourselves to provide necessities to our survival through our experiences in nature and as homesteaders. We've had countless people see what we're up to and say, "Wow, I'm jealous. You're doing exactly what I've always dreamed of doing." But we were dreamers of this life as well, just like them. At some point we said, how do we stop the dreaming and start doing? And maybe for you, it's not homesteading, but it's something else. How do you stop the dreaming? How do you start doing? And I share all of the accomplishments that we've made as a family solely for the sake of inspiring others, hopefully. And there's plenty more out there that do more than we do. So I'm not saying that we're better than anyone, anyone's lesser than us. I'm just saying that we were at once in the same position as so many people our age and other age groups that just kind of ride the predetermined path that they're expected to. And as technology has convinced us today, has spent so much time just trapped in our phones and not pursuing these goals that we have in our hearts and in our dreams. And I say all this because I really just hope to inspire others, if not for your financial independence, if not to retire early, maybe just to motivate finding a new skill, finding something that is more inspiring than scrolling Reddit or Facebook or TikTok, which we partake in those things. We're not saying that social media cannot be used. It's just limiting that use redirects you towards the simple life that we knew before this technology came upon us, and then translates into more productive purchases, more productive goals financially and investing, and perhaps a homesteading goal like we have, something similar. In the end, buy an RV if you want, buy a boat if you want, buy another fidget spinner if you want. I know I don't like using fidget spinner as an example. It's just the most useless thing I can think of. But get the newest of whatever you want. I wouldn't think any less of you if you did. But if you're recognizing that maybe it's not bringing you the happiness for as long as a purchase that big should, then maybe try something different. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Frugal Noodle. Next week, I'm going to start an episode in a series that I like to call What Is It? It'll be a simple series that I'm adding that I'll drop an episode periodically in the mix of things, just kind of elaborating on 2 or 3 new terms in finance and investing and the like. It's just helping people understand the basics, because that's where this show initially set off on. It was helping people understand financial independence, retirement, investing, etc. And it's deviating off into a path of this subject today, simple living, and how it all coincides. But I do want to be able to help people understand the basics as we go. So next week will be the first What Is It episodes, and it will cover a few different terms in finance. But again, thank you for listening to this episode. Be sure to follow Frugal Noodle wherever you get social media and wherever you get podcasts. Be able to subscribe so you can stay up to date on the latest episodes. The music for this episode was produced by CARBS. This has been Frugal Noodle. Thank you for listening.